You get your tax bill in the mail, filled with numbers, filled with descriptions. What are you going to do? Do not fear, because on today's special episode, you're going to find out all about it. Coming up next. Hello and welcome to the Middle Country Public Library Podcast. I'm Sal DiVincenzo, and I have a very special guest with me today, Neil Manzella, our Brookhaven Town Councilman.
Yes,
how are you?
Pleasure to be here. Good.
Thank you for coming back, actually.
No, absolutely. Anytime.
This is a great subject, I think. It's kind of like that time of year people have taxes on the brain.
Oh, yeah. Let's not kid ourselves. Taxes are on the brain, I think, all year long.
Yes, yes, exactly.
that looming threat
thing.
that's coming. Yeah.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about the tax bill.
Yeah.
And what it means and what all those numbers are, where they go.
Yeah. Try to touch on everything.
What they do. Yeah. Great. Fantastic. So let's start off right away, and let me ask you, how does a tax bill get created?
Man, it is. So here's the simplest thing, right? Because I'm assuming the library gets this to school. Any municipality gets this, and the question is, or the statement is, I pay all these taxes, and so I expect this,
yes,
or I want this. Or if there's an issue, the issue really stems from, I pay all these taxes, why aren't I seeing these returns? But what ties into that, to me the most, is that a lot of people don't realize exactly where their taxes do go. This is something I've been dealing with in the assessor's office for years, and now following through to this spot. And so your tax bill is a bunch of budgets. That's it, in a nutshell. You have all these municipality budgets that all come together to generate one tax bill. That tax dollar amount all gets collected by the town and then dispersed out to all the municipalities to cover those budgets.
Okay.
I'll go into the town's budget. I'm not here to speak on any other municipalities' budgets,
Sure.
but to explain that, just to give an idea. And I think all budgets are treated pretty much the same. Everything costs money. And most of the time, it costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
All issues of government, actually, County Executive Romaine said this, former supervisor, that all issues of government are an issue of money. And it's true. Everything costs money, and that money comes from somewhere. Mm-hmm. We try to offset that with revenue for the town, but then whatever's left over, that's where taxpayers come into play.
Okay.
And it happens for our libraries, our fire departments, our police, everything.
All right.
But the main part where we start with is your property. These are property taxes.
Yes.
Your taxes are generated based on your home that you own. If you are a homeowner, if you rent, the landlord is the one paying the taxes, and it's probably tied into your rental bill. But if you own a home, that's what we're going to talk about, you have something that's called an assessed value.
Okay.
What an assessed value is that the town puts a value on your home of what they think it's worth.
Not what you paid, necessarily.
Not what you paid, no.
Okay.
So here it is. Your assessed value, when you're buying a home, where do you want that assessed value?
Yeah, low.
Really low, so that you're buying. But when you're selling your home, where do you want that assessed
Really
value?
high.
Really high. When it comes to paying your taxes, you want that assessed value really low. So we try to do everything about the assessor's department and the town assessment is about fair. Okay. We want it to be as fair as possible. And what that means is that your assessment, most people's assessment doesn't change. Unless you modify your property,
okay,
it doesn't change. And when I say property, I'm not talking about your land. A lot of people think, oh, they have 2 acres and I only have a half an acre. Land is not that valuable compared to what's actually called real property by New York State. Real property is all of the structures on your land.
Okay.
That's where the real value comes in. So if you have a half an acre, your assessed value might be 400, 500. But once you put a house on it, now it shoots up to 1,500, 2,000, something like that. In the town of Brookhaven, the average assessed value is $2,718. Now, what does that mean? Your assessed value is basically a fraction of your market value.
Okay.
New York State creates an equalization rate that we use to calculate what your market value is based on your assessed value. So the average home in Brookhaven, $2,718 is the average assessed value. That equates to $512,830.19.
That's the median.
That is the average. Yeah,
Okay.
Across the entire town. Now,
Okay.
of course, you're going to have some areas with much lower assessed values. You're going to have some areas much higher assessed values. If you go back to my hometown, Massachusetts and Shirley, you're going to find some cheaper homes have lower assessed values. If you go up to Village of Shoreham or you go up to Belterre, you're going to start seeing some expensive high. So we're in the average, right?
Okay.
Specifically here in Selden and Centereach, we're below average.
Okay.
Not much. So if the average in the town is 2718 In Center Reach, it's $26.24.
Okay.
Which means $495,094. And in Selden, it's $23.56, meaning $444,528.
Okay.
Now, what does this mean? When you get your tax bill, that number's listed on there. It tells you your assessed value. It even tells you the equalization rate and the market value. If you want to sell your house right now, and let's say you're at that average of 20, we'll talk about Center Reach because we're in Center Reach right now. 26.24, 495,000. The market right now, if you go to sell your home and you think you can get more than that amount and that's your assessed value, chances are you might be underassessed.
Oh.
That's okay.
Okay.
Right? You're not going to be mad at that.
No, sure.
We're also not going to come after you for that.
Okay.
We don't go around and just pick and choose, oh, this one's a little low, it's rate. We don't do that. That's actually illegal. It's a law that you can't do that.
Okay.
If we're going to reassess, it has to be the entire town, which is incredibly expensive. So then how do we modify? It's when you modify your property.
Okay.
You build an extension. You take out an extension. You convert a garage into living space. You add a pool. These are all things that modify your assessed value so that we can then go ahead.
So what you're saying is, because you mentioned something that I didn't quite think about. So if you removed something from your property, that could bring the assessment down.
If you have an in-ground pool, that will affect your assessed value. An above-ground pool doesn't, because an above-ground pool you can take down over the summer. It's not a fixed structure.
Okay.
An in-ground pool, it's not going anywhere.
Okay.
That would. So let's say you get rid of an in-ground pool and fill it in.
Yeah.
You let us know, your assessed value comes down.
Wow.
If you have an apartment above your garage, right? And you get rid of it, make it an attic, you're now no longer considered an accessory apartment and you're removing living space, your assessment can come down.
So let's say I do that. Let's say I adjust my house either way.
Yeah.
Add or take away.
Sure.
Does the town automatically know that's happening?
If you do it the legal way?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So when you go to do anything on your home, any modification, you're going to go through the building department, you're going to take out permits, you do all this work. One of the last steps before getting a certificate of occupancy is to get a certificate of assessment.
Okay.
That is literally telling the assessor's office, here's the work that I applied to do. I completed it all. Here's all the final inspections. Here's the photos of it. And the building department confirms this. And now we give you a certificate that says, good, the assessor's office knows, we're all clear of it, and then we modify the assessment accordingly, and then you can go and get your certificate of occupancy, and then you're done.
You're done. So does someone physically go to the property in those cases?
Building inspectors go throughout the whole process.
Whole property, okay.
Yeah, because let's say you're adding an extension or second story. Yeah. There's going to be inspections from our fire commissioners, make sure that it's fire safe. Okay. Building inspectors, making sure that the plumbing is safe, that the electricity is safe, things like that. It's all about safety. People don't tend to believe that, obviously, because you come to the town and we're giving you a hassle about it. But it's about safety for you, about safety for everybody else. And there's plenty of people, honestly, who ignore it, unfortunately. And we just raised the fines for that because that leads to two things. Number one, possible safety issues. But number two, let's say me and you each have a 1,500 square foot home. We're both on a quarter of an acre. We're both in Center Reach. We're both next door to each other.
Okay.
Our assessment should be pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Now you go and you add a second story onto your house and you don't notify the town. You should be paying more taxes than me because now you have more real property on your land. Your assessed value should be higher and therefore you should be paying more taxes. But because you're not, my taxes are there because when you pay more taxes, what happens to mine?
Yeah.
I pay less because we all share in the same budgets, the same municipalities, the same tax lines. So it's about fair to everybody, safe for you, safe for everybody else, fair to everybody. And that's a tough thing to kind of wrap your head around sometimes.
Now, not to go too much off of a tangent, but one of the complaints that I've heard just anecdotally is that, it takes too long to get, I don't want to, I'll do it later. It takes too long for somebody to come down. Is that true or? Not
necessarily. Honestly, it used to be. Yeah. So when we talk about taxes, we talk about budgets and we talk about everything. Last year, we actually, we laid off the entire planning board.
Wow. Okay.
The town board assumed all of those responsibilities. So now I am a planning board and town board member simultaneously. That when people come before us, projects should be faster, and we have now proven that they are faster.
Excellent.
Because it used to be you go before a planning board, then you go before the town board, and then you come to us. And it all just takes longer and longer and longer. But it all depends on the project too. People don't like this, but we have town code, right? So let's say you want to build a shed. And the code says your shed has to be 6 feet away from your fence. It can't be taller than 18 feet, or it can't be bigger than this many square feet.
Sure.
And everything that you want to do is within town code. When you apply for your permit from the building department, you go in there and say, look, I want to build a shed. You apply, you follow all the steps. You're good. You go, you can build it. Once you get the permit, obviously you follow the steps, build it. An inspector comes out. This is all good to go, and they leave.
Great.
However, a lot of times people either come to us after the fact, or they say, I know it's supposed to be 6 feet away, but I want to put it 5 feet.
Yeah.
I know it's not supposed to be over 18 feet, but I need 19 feet, or I want this. For whatever reasons. Same happens a lot with pools, right? I can't fit my pool this far from the fence. I would like this. Any modifications to the town code have to go before the BZA, the Board of Zoning Appeals. They are a separate appellate board, separate from the town, whose sole responsibility is to have these hearings in order to grant a variance from the town code. So like, here's a modification. We know that it's supposed to be 6 feet away, but we're going to allow it to be 5 feet away because of this. We honestly see this often where if you have like a corner property, they're trying to technically build a pool in their front yard because it's on a road, but it's actually their backyard because they fit. Silly things like that. But that process makes it take a little longer because they have to go before the BZA first, get an approval, then they can build.
So it sounds like just, have good expectations, temper those expectations. If you're doing something on a weird piece of property or you're doing something out of the norm, it might take longer.
Honestly, I can't stress this enough. Most of the time, issues come about when somebody just thinks, how hard could it be? I'll do it all myself. It's a lot. There's a lot to it. And then expediters come into play. Expediters are an important thing to talk about because, number one, they are not needed. You do not need an expediter. An expediter should be there so that if you don't want to deal with it, that Friday night when you come home, you say, oh my God, I don't want to cook dinner right now. I'm going to hire an expediter known as a pizza place.
Yeah, exactly.
You make my food, I'm going to pay you money, and I'll bring it home and eat it.
Sure.
That should be what an expediter is. I don't want to deal with going back and forth to the town and getting all of these maybe inspections that I need to. I don't know what this is. I don't want to learn this right now. It's like plumbing, right?
Yeah.
I can go under my sink and take apart the plumbing under my sink and be fine. Then all of a sudden, if I have a leak somewhere else, it's like, I don't want to learn all of this and take those.
Sure.
I'm going to hire a plumber. It's the same concept with an expediter, is that they know these steps, they know what to expect, they know the process to make it quicker. Most issues come when somebody tries doing it themselves and they either run into snags, they run into issues, they run into things that they don't understand or they don't know. At any point throughout a process, somebody can call us in my office too, and we'll help you along the way too. We're not going to do everything for you. That's not the way it works. But like, if they have questions or they need a greater understanding of something, we're here to help too. And if we do that, it makes it so much smoother, so much easier. I think that people seem to get overwhelmed a lot when they want to do work, and then they have questions that they don't have an answer for, and they start coming up with ideas, or they talk to somebody else who had a bad experience, and now they're thinking that that's what happened. And it just spirals like that. Misinformation spirals a lot. But.
Sure. Wow, that's great. You made me feel better about things.
It's easy.
Yeah.
It's
so you have
you think.
So your property is a major part of your tax bill.
Your property is your assessed value.
Yeah.
Is what drives how much you pay.
Okay.
Right? It's all based on that. So when we talk about the tax bill itself, you get a tax bill and it's this big number. And who does that number go to? The town of Brookhaven.
Yeah.
So everybody just thinks, I'm paying $15,000 a year to the town of Brookhaven. It doesn't work like that. Yes, we do, but we have a receiver of taxes.
Okay.
His job is to receive the taxes. He then he doles it out to all the municipalities that need it.
Sure.
So the breakdown is as follows.
Okay.
And this is based on the average of center each. So a $2,624 assessed value, $495,000 home.
The average.
We'll have a tax bill of $11,282, right? That's the average in center each. If you're paying more taxes than that, you have a higher AV. If you're paying lower taxes than that, you have a lower AV.
For the reasons we talked about before.
Real quick, AV, your assessed value. When you hear the term, I want to grieve my taxes, right?
Yeah.
Everybody says that, grieve your taxes.
Yeah.
You're not actually grieving your taxes.
Okay.
I don't know if you knew that or not.
No.
You're grieving your assessed value.
Okay.
You're grieving the value that the town put on your property.
So you're saying,
In
hey,
turn,
I don't think it should be that much.
Yes, my house is not worth that much.
No, look at this.
That's what you're actually grieving.
Yeah.
So every year you can do that during the grievance period. It's in May. And you can say, hey, look, my house is valued at this number, but I know I can only sell it for this number.
Okay.
And there's a process to that. The easiest way is by comparable sales. I have a 2,000 square foot home, and this 2,000 square foot home around the block for me sold for $450,000,
Yeah.
but you're telling me my house is worth $500,000.
I see. Okay.
Now you say, oh wow, I might be assessed too high.
Yeah.
And again, there's companies out there that do this for you, and they charge you a percentage of whatever they saved you. So you're going to save over the years, and they get it paid for that first year, whatever works. Anyway, that's what you're grieving is your assessed value.
Okay.
So you have the full right to do that. You can do it yourself. And that is something that everybody should know, that that's what you're actually looking as your assessed value. Okay. So that's how you deal with that. But then once we get the taxable status date, March 31st, your assessed value is given to the receiver of taxes office and they generate a bill.
Okay.
What is this bill? It is all of the budgets of the municipalities that you belong to. If we're talking about Center Reach, you have the Center Reach Fire Department, Middle Country Library, Middle Country School District, Town of Brookhaven, County of Suffolk, State of New York, right?
Okay.
These are all of our lines, basically. And on your bill, it's broken down roughly. I think it could be a little bit better, but it's broken down roughly that amount. And the breakdown is that your school and library is your biggest chunk, right?
Okay.
It is 75% of your bill. Now, we all know that the lion's share of that is the school, but the library is in there with it because they are the same globe, right?
Sure.
They cover the same district boundaries, so that's what that is.
Okay.
If somebody has questions about their library budget or their school budget, reach out to your library or
You can
school.
absolutely reach
Not
out
talking
to
about
us.
that.
Yeah.
In your county, it's about 12%. And now that is Suffolk County, the police department, MTA, it is Suffolk Community College is here, and Center Reach and Selden, things like that.
Yeah.
So the county is their own line. That's about 12%. Then you have the miscellaneous. Miscellaneous is your fire department. It is like street lighting. It is this. There's a couple of, I don't have it all listed here, but it's your miscellaneous line is all of these other lines as well.
Things that cost money.
Things that cost money, right.
that you probably use.
That's about 6%. And then the town's line is about 7%.
Okay.
Now, the town's line is what I can talk about.
Yeah.
Because everybody always thinks that because it's the town. No, this budget, though, is being shared over the entire town.
Yes, I didn't realize that.
So it's a large budget, but it's split up over everything. Where if you have a school budget, it's only split up over Selden and Center Reach, the Middle Country School District.
Yeah.
The Center Reach Fire Department is even smaller. So it's about the percentages of that. So the town's line, what is our budget? Where does it come from? Like I said, everything costs money. The town is not immune to any of that. The town has employees. Employees have salaries. Employees have benefits. We want to take care of our employees too because their whole job should be to work for you. For the it's a taxpayer-funded building. We're here to serve the public. That's the whole goal. That's one thing. Then we have all the services that we provide. We have our parks. We have our Center Reach pool complex. We have Safety Town. We have the ecology site. We have all of these different things that we provide for the public that all cost money. Taking care of any town beaches, town roadways, our town parks. Every single thing costs money. So here's the full budget, right? And it's a big number.
Yeah.
If that went to everybody, that number wouldn't be 7%. It would be probably much higher.
Yeah.
But then we can chip away at that by having revenue for the town. If you go to a town beach and there's a parking fee, people are upset with that, but that goes to the town. And now all of a sudden the amount that has to be paid by everybody starts shrinking.
Sure.
When you go to the building department, you say, hey, look, I want to add an addition. I want to add on to my house. The fees associated with those are supposed to be basically service fees for how much it costs for the staff to do all of the work that goes into doing that work for you.
Yeah.
And that brings all that number down. So all the revenue that the town can generate, it's not it's not going into our pockets. People think that I wish it did, but it is not. Well, I don't wish it did. It's not the case at all.
Not the case.
That goes to cut down how much. And if we get any bonds, or we have a fantastic finance department, if we get any financial assistance from anywhere, again, it all just starts chipping it down and down and down and down. So then what's left is what has to be paid by the taxpayers, right? Everything that we're not generating to be fully self-sufficient, right? That amount gets split up amongst the town, and that's where the 7% comes from.
Okay.
So now how do we change that, right? So we want that even smaller. Well, even smaller would be we fire a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Fire a bunch of people, money goes down, guess what? We have to pay less. But then you're not going to get as good of a help as you need if you go into a department.
Yeah.
How else do we do that? Let's say we close down the entire Center Reach pool. Let's say we close out.
Very upsetting.
Right, we start removing services.
Yeah.
When we start removing services, sure, that's less money too.
Yeah.
We don't want that. That's how you bring it down.
Yeah.
But now let's look at the opposite end, right? Hey, I think that we should have more parks. We get this a lot, right?
Yeah.
We want this park, but we want to expand on it. We want to do this. We want to grow this. Now the money's going back up.
Yeah.
How much is that going to cost? And what is the return on investment for that? Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? And these are all decisions that we make year in and year out, every day. And it's a tough balance because then it comes down to, hey, Is this worth it? Will people like this? Will people not like this? Did the community want to see this? Do they not want to see this? What do we have to get rid of? What do we want to keep? What do we want to build on? What do we want to expand? Because every time we do that, money goes up and down.
Yeah.
And it's tough because even just now, like it's been all over the news. People talk about it, that the town raised taxes. We did. We raised taxes to an amount that is feasible. We didn't want to cut services. We don't want to fire any staff. We don't want to remove anything. But what happens is, and I worked in the department for years, is that every year that's the argument, right? How do we do more with less? How do we do this? And it is tough.
I'm sure.
I remember working in the assessor's office. It's like, all right, we had 2 people retire. What if we don't bring them back? Right? That helps money now. Let's not fill those positions. How's that going to affect the department? Well, we'd have an issue over here. We'd have these issues. Man, that might not be worth it. It's just it's so hard. This budget that the supervisor presented really was the most fiscally responsible way to say, you know what? We know that we're raising taxes. It's not easy to anybody. We all pay the taxes too. But this is how we can continue to provide the services that we provide that we feel we're doing a good job with. And honestly, then if people are upset with our services, that's when you call us. Now, how can we do better? How can we do a better job? What can we do our tweaks on? Talk to us.
Sure.
Don't get mad at us and yell at us. Talk to us. How can we move forward together? That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
But I really think that this was it was a responsible budget. And people look at, the town went up this much money. But when you look, that 7% may have gone to 8 or 9%.
Yeah.
So if you're paying $10,000, instead of paying $600 to the town, it was $800 to the town. Now, don't get me wrong. That's still an increase, and I understand that and get that. But when people seem to not understand the breakdown and they see an increase, they're thinking, oh my God, I pay $15,000 and now that's going up. I'm going to be, it's not like that. You have to look at the breakdown of each municipality. And that happens across the board. And it's never good. But like I said, the misinformation I feel like sometimes wins, where people need to know or should know exactly where all the money's going so that you know exactly who to yell at. If you're upset,
exactly.
If somebody is pissed at the fire department, they're going to let them know. And they're there. These fire representatives are at these civic meetings too. Come out, talk to them. If you have questions about the budget, talk to them. And they are very well versed in it. Same thing with the library. I've never heard of anybody say, I can't get in touch with the library. Of course you can. Go down, ask somebody questions. Same thing with the school. All the people here are in their positions to serve the public. Whether you want to believe it or not, that's what everybody's here for. However, in public service like schools, libraries, town municipalities, county municipalities, it's taxpayer funded. So that is a big thing though, because you're talking about people's money.
Yeah.
You want to make sure we're doing it the right way.
Yeah. So let's say someone wants to reach out to you. What's the best way that they can reach out to you?
Honestly, email, phone call, Facebook. Okay. I honestly pride myself on how accessible I really try to be. I've had people come up to me at street fairs and just say, I had a question and I just thought of it now that I'm seeing you. Great, come on up and talk to me. On Facebook, I literally have my phone in my pocket all the time. I can go on right now if somebody messages me. We'll see if anybody comes in, nothing yet. But Facebook, like I said, email, Councilman Manzella at brookhavenny.gov, or my phone number, 451-6647 is my office number. Excellent. If I'm not there, my staff is there. We all talk nonstop all day, every day. And that's the whole thing, right? I'd rather people call me because no matter what, and this is a tough one too, I'm not here to give you the answer you want to hear. Yeah. I want to give you an answer so that you don't ever have to worry about something again. If somebody has a question, when this all happened with taxes, tax season, you come out and pay your tax bill at the end of December and January, we've got a million questions. Yeah. One of the questions actually on the tax bill recently, we moved out the ecology site and the parks and recs departments were put on separate lines. People assumed that was a new line added. Yeah, this is new. It was not. It's not the case. It was, in my opinion, a poor attempt at transparency. Again, we talked about it before. I think tax bill could be a little bit better. We'll figure that out. But that is part of your town budget that we tried separating out so you can see, all right, here's how much goes to the town, but here's how much goes to this line, and this is what goes to our parks, this is what goes to that, so that it's a little bit more clear to understand exactly what your dollars go to. Okay. And it's tough, right? How do you teach everybody in the town something like this?
Yeah. When does the budget, like when do you start to think about next year's budget? Is that like constantly all the time? Yes.
We're constantly thinking about, because you know what happens? It's also based on a project by project. So the staffing is staffing, and that's going to ebb and flow as the year goes on. Are people going to retire? Are people going to leave? Are people going to come in? Do we have new hires? Do we have vacancies? It's constantly in discussion. And then in the middle of the year is when we finally sit down, try to finalize something, work things out. What's doable, what's not doable, how do we afford this, how do we afford that? But it is a constant work in progress as the year goes on.
Wow. Okay. Well, look, I learned a ton of stuff today, and I hope our listeners and our viewers did as well.
Absolutely.
And I greatly appreciate you coming down and explaining it. And,
anytime, my pleasure.
And again, they can reach you and all those different ways,
Any way
Facebook
possible.
and email and call.
Yeah.
And definitely call. Don't be afraid to call. I think that's the other thing that I from my experience, is that people are afraid to call.
Yeah.
They think that no one's going to help them if they call. But how are you going to get help if you don't call? Or
You know what my favorite thing is? Somebody will call me, get in touch with me and say, "Oh, I'm sorry to bother you, but that is not, it is the farthest thing from a bother. I need you to call me. There is no way for me to know what's going on unless I have that feedback. That back and forth is what we need." So
Yeah. Well, thanks so much.
no problem.
Appreciate
And
it.
I'm going to throw a plug in here too,
Yeah.
that if anybody wants more information, I'm going to the Center Reach Civic on this Thursday at 7 p.m. is at the Center Reach Firehouse.
Okay.
And I'm going to give the whole presentation. It's catered towards Center Reach because I'm doing it there.
Great.
I did one in Farmingville already, did one in Selden, going to Center
Excellent.
Reach next, and Lake Ronkonkoma is coming up. And then I'm going to cycle it all again next year if we have to.
Great.
I feel like it's just, to me, it's the best thing is to have people understand everything. And that way we can really hone in on what concerns are and how do we address them.
Exactly. Well, Town of Brookhaven Councilman Neil Manzella, thank you so much for coming down.
Thank you for having
to
me.
be once again to be on the show, and we're definitely going to have you back.
Of course.
'cause we love it. Thank you so much, and thank you for watching and listening. If you want to listen to older episodes or read our show notes, visit our website mcplpodcast.com. And hey, if you liked the episode and you watched on YouTube, hit the like button, and of course hit the subscribe button, because we'd love for you to come back and see all the other great things that we're going to have coming up this year, and we'll have Neil back, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Very good. All right.
Anytime.
Awesome. So thanks so much. For Neil Manzella, I'm Sal DiMincenzo. See you on the next show.